throwaway account because my life is a mess right now. So this happened. I, 32M, Jake, am reeling from the fallout of what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. My fiancée, Sarah, 31F, and I were set to get married in 2 weeks. We've been together for 7 years since we met in college. Everything seemed perfect, like something out of a movie, really. We had the house, the dog, the shared dreams of a future filled with kids and laughter. I had even started sketching out designs for a treehouse in the backyard, imagining our future children playing in it. I was completely blindsided. I never saw this coming. I thought we were building a forever kind of love, the kind that weathers any storm. I even had a custom-made wedding band with a tiny inscription inside, S+J, forever and always. It felt like the ultimate symbol of our commitment, a physical representation of the unbreakable bond I believed we shared. A little backstory. Sarah and I met at a college party. It wasn't love at first sight, not exactly, but there was an undeniable spark. She was this vibrant, fun-loving person, surrounded by a group of friends, laughing at some joke I couldn't hear. I was immediately drawn to her energy, her infectious smile. I was a shy, introverted guy back then, more comfortable with books than people, but something about Sarah made me want to step outside my comfort zone. I walked over, introduced myself, and we ended up talking for hours that night about everything and nothing. We fell hard and fast. The last 7 years have been mostly great. We've traveled the world, explored hidden corners of Europe, hiked mountains, and even took a spontaneous road trip across the country. We supported each other through career changes, late nights at the office, and the inevitable ups and downs of life. We built a life together, a comfortable rhythm of shared meals, movie nights, and weekend getaways. We'd even started a tradition of writing each other love letters on our anniversary, little notes filled with inside jokes and promises for the future. I cherished those letters, kept them in a special box, a tangible reminder of our love story. I was planning to read a compilation of excerpts from those letters during my vows. About a month ago, Sarah started acting different, distant, preoccupied. She'd get these calls and go into another room, whispering so softly I couldn't make out a word. Or she'd be texting intensely, her fingers flying across the screen, and then quickly minimize her phone or flip it over when I came near. I tried not to be insecure, tried to tell myself it was just stress from the wedding planning, but my gut was telling me something was off. I started noticing little things, like her humming a song I'd never heard before, or wearing a new perfume that didn't smell like her usual scent. It was like she was subtly transforming into someone I didn't quite recognize. Then came the girls' night. Sarah told me she was going out with her friends, a casual get-together, she said. But she was acting weird all day, almost giddy, like a teenager getting ready for a first date. She spent hours getting ready, trying on different outfits, agonizing over her hair and makeup. She finally settled on this dress I'd never seen before, a slinky red number that seemed completely out of character for her usual style. She was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement, a nervous energy that made me uneasy. She came home late, and I was already in bed, pretending to be asleep. She slipped in, didn't say much, and fell asleep almost immediately. The next morning, I was making breakfast, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over me, when her phone, which she'd carelessly left on the kitchen counter, started buzzing nonstop. It was her best friend, Emily. The messages were revealing and devastating. OMG, last night was insane. Did you talk to him? He's still so into you. You deserve to be happy, not settle. My blood ran cold. Him? Who was him? My stomach dropped, a sickening feeling of dread washing over me. I scrolled further, my hands shaking, and found a name I hadn't heard in years. Jake. Sarah's high school sweetheart. The guy she'd always talked about with this wistful look in her eyes, a faraway expression that made me feel like I was somehow competing with a ghost. The guy I'd always felt a little jealous of, even though I told myself it was ridiculous that he was ancient history. The messages went on and on, painting a vivid and heartbreaking picture of what had transpired the previous night. They detailed how Sarah and Jake had met up, how he'd confessed he still had feelings for her, how he'd never gotten over her, and how she was finally considering her own happiness, as if our shared life, our carefully constructed world, was somehow an impediment to her fulfillment. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut, the air knocked out of my lungs. My Sarah, my future wife, was considering leaving me for her high school ex. It felt surreal, like I was trapped in a nightmare. I snooped. I know it was wrong, a violation of her privacy, but I felt like I was drowning, desperate for answers. Over the next few days, I checked her phone whenever she left it unattended, each time feeling a sickening mix of guilt and dread. I found more messages with Emily, with Jake, and even with her mom, Marjorie. Apparently, Sarah had been confiding in them for weeks, laying out her doubts, her uncertainties, her rekindled feelings for Jake. She was telling them she wasn't sure she wanted to go through with the wedding, that she'd always wondered what if with Jake, that she felt like she was settling for me, that I was the safe, predictable choice, not the passionate love of her life. The more I read, the sicker I felt. The woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me, had been secretly planning to leave me, to dismantle our life together, for a relationship that had ended years ago. And the worst part? Everyone knew but me, her best friend, her mom. They were all in on it, offering advice, encouragement, and support for her to pursue her true happiness, while I was blissfully unaware, planning our future, writing my vows. The final straw came the night before our final pre-wedding dinner with close friends and family, a celebratory gathering meant to mark the beginning of our new life together. Sarah told me she was going out for one last girls' night with her bridesmaids, a final fling before the big day. I was already suspicious, my mind reeling from the revelations I'd uncovered, so I decided to do something I'd never done before. I followed her. I know, it sounds like something out of a bad movie, a desperate, pathetic act, but I had to know the truth, had to see it with my own eyes. I trailed her car to a bar downtown, a trendy place we'd never been to before. And there he was, Jake. They were sitting at a table, tucked away in a dimly lit corner, laughing, talking intimately, their hands brushing against each other, just like we used to do. He was leaning in close, whispering in her ear, and she was giggling. That same carefree, joyful giggle that had first captivated me years ago. My blood ran cold. I watched them for an hour, my heart shattering with every shared glance, every touch, every stolen moment. It felt like watching a movie of my own life, but with a different ending. A tragic twist I hadn't seen coming. Then they left, together. They walked out of the bar hand in hand and got into his car. I couldn't bring myself to follow them. I drove home in a daze, the image of them together seared into my brain. The next few hours were a blur. I somehow managed to go through the motions of the rehearsal dinner, smiling, laughing, making small talk with our guests, while inside I was dying, a gaping hole where my heart used to be. The next morning, I woke up to find Sarah already awake. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, looking at me with this pitying expression, a look that made my stomach churn. "We need to talk," she said, her voice soft, almost apologetic. Those 3 words. The words that signal the end of everything, the death knell of a relationship. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she continued, her voice trembling slightly, "and I don't think I can go through with the wedding." I just stared at her, numb, unable to process the words, the reality of the situation. "Jake?" I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. She nodded, tears welling in her eyes, glistening like tiny diamonds. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "I still have feelings for him. I always have." "And what about me, Sarah?" I asked, my voice cracking, the dam finally breaking. "What about the last 7 years? Were they nothing? A lie?" "No, of course not," she said, reaching for my hand, a desperate attempt at connection. I pulled away, recoiling from her touch. "But," she continued, her voice hesitant, "I need to explore this. I need to know if this is real, if this is what I've been missing all these years. So you're just going to throw us away?" I asked, my voice rising, filled with bitterness and disbelief. 7 years, our home, our plans, our future, all for him? For a high school fantasy? "It's not like that," she said, her voice trembling, tears streaming down her face. I need to see if this is what I really want, if this is where my happiness lies." "And what if it's not?" I asked, my voice full of bitterness, the pain raw and exposed. "What if you try this and it doesn't work out? What if he doesn't live up to your idealized memories? Then what? You come crawling back expecting me to pick up the pieces." She didn't have an answer. She just sat there, sobbing, her shoulders shaking. That's when I lost it. The anger, the hurt, the betrayal, it all came crashing down on me. You know what, Sarah? I said, standing up, my voice cold and steady, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. You've made your choice, but so have I. I walked to the closet and started pulling out her suitcases, the ones we'd bought for our honeymoon, the trip we'd been planning for months. What are you doing? She asked, her voice filled with panic, her eyes wide with disbelief. I'm packing your bags, I said, my voice devoid of emotion, my movements mechanical. You want to be with him? Fine, go. But you're not staying here. Not in our home. I packed up all her belongings, every dress, every book, every photograph, every memento of our life together. I left nothing behind, as if erasing her presence would somehow erase the pain. She watched me, sobbing, begging me to stop, pleading with me to understand, to give her another chance. But I didn't. I couldn't. The trust was broken, shattered into a million pieces. When I was done, I dragged her suitcases to the door, the weight of them a physical manifestation of the emotional burden I was carrying. Get out, I said, my voice shaking, despite my efforts to remain calm. And don't ever come back. She left. Just like that. The woman I was supposed to marry in 2 weeks, the woman I had built my life around, walked out of my life, leaving a void that felt like it would swallow me whole. I spent the next few days in a daze, a numb, surreal state of disbelief. I canceled the wedding, notified our guests, a series of awkward and painful conversations, and tried to process the enormity of what had happened, the sudden and brutal demolition of my future. The responses were mixed. Some friends were supportive, offering condolences and understanding. Others were shocked, unable to comprehend the sudden turn of events. Sarah's mom, Marjorie, called, her voice shrill and accusatory, begging me to reconsider, saying Sarah was confused and made a mistake, that she didn't really mean it. But I was done. I couldn't marry someone who was so willing to throw us away, to betray my trust, to prioritize a fleeting fantasy over the reality of our love. Then, a week later, Sarah showed up at my door, unannounced, unexpected. She was a mess. Her hair was disheveled, her eyes were red and puffy from crying, her makeup was smeared. She looked like a ghost of her former self. She was crying, begging, saying she'd made a huge, terrible mistake. That Jake wasn't who she thought he was, that the reality didn't live up to the memory. It was just a rebound, she said, her voice thick with tears, her hands reaching for me, a moment of weakness. I realized I want you, not him. You're my home, Jake. You're my everything. A rebound? I asked, my voice dangerously low, the anger simmering beneath the surface. You were planning this for weeks, Sarah. You lied to my face repeatedly. You betrayed me. That's not a rebound. That's a conscious, deliberate choice. Please, Jake, she begged, her voice desperate, her eyes pleading. I'm so sorry. I love you. I've always loved you. Love isn't enough, Sarah, I said, shaking my head, the words heavy with sadness and finality. You broke my trust, Sarah, and I don't know if I can ever get that back. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and you shattered it. I closed the door on her, shutting her out of my life, the sound echoing in the empty apartment. And this morning, I changed the locks, a physical act of separation, a symbolic gesture of finality. Now, I'm getting a barrage of calls and texts from Sarah, her friends, and even some of our family members. They're all saying I'm overreacting, that I'm being too harsh, that I should give her another chance, that everyone makes mistakes. But I don't know. Am I the asshole here? Should I have given her a chance to explain, to apologize, to try to repair the damage? Or was I right to end it to protect myself from further pain and betrayal? Update 1. Wow, this blew up way more than I expected. The outpouring of support and advice has been overwhelming, and honestly, it's helping me to process this whole chaotic situation. A lot of you are asking for more details, wanting to understand the context, the history, and honestly, I'm still trying to process everything myself. It feels like I'm sifting through the wreckage of a plane crash, trying to piece together what went wrong. But here's some more info. Filling in some of the blanks as requested. Sarah and Jake dated all through high school, the entire 4 years. They were like the golden couple, the prom king and queen, the ones everyone envied. They were inseparable, always together, holding hands in the hallways, sharing lunch, attending every school event as a pair. They were voted most likely to get married, a title that seemed like a foregone conclusion at the time. They even had matching promise rings, those cheesy silver bands with forever engraved on them, a symbol of their teenage commitment. I remember seeing them around even though I wasn't in their social circle. Sarah used to show them off to everyone, beaming with pride, a constant reminder of their seemingly unbreakable bond. They broke up right before college because they were going to different schools, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle at that age. She was devastated at the time, heartbroken, inconsolable. She cried for weeks, according to her friends. She seemed to move on, eventually, meeting new people, forming new relationships. Or so I thought. In hindsight, I realized there were always subtle signs, little clues I overlooked or dismissed. Jake and I were not friends. This was a significant point of confusion and inconsistency in the previous versions. The only connection to Jake is through Sarah. He was a figure from her past, a ghost that occasionally haunted our relationship. We had a beautiful venue booked, a charming, rustic estate overlooking a lake, a place we'd both fallen in love with the moment we saw it. We had a live band, a renowned local group that played all our favorite songs. We'd spent months crafting the perfect playlist, a mix of classic love songs and upbeat dance tunes. We had the whole shebang, a meticulously planned event that had consumed our lives for the past year. It was expensive, a significant investment, but we'd been saving diligently for years, determined to have the wedding of our dreams. My parents even chipped in, generously offering to cover a portion of the costs, a gesture of their love and support. Now I have to figure out how to cancel everything, untangle the contracts, and try to get our deposits back. A daunting and emotionally draining task. It feels like dismantling a dream, piece by piece. Sarah's friends formed this impenetrable clique of superficiality, a collective obsessed with appearances, designer labels, and the curated perfection of social media. They were the type who'd spend hours meticulously crafting their outfits, agonizing over every detail of their hair and makeup, transforming themselves into seemingly flawless beings before venturing out for even the most casual gathering. Their lives, as portrayed on Instagram, were a constant stream of expensive restaurants, exotic vacations, and exclusive events, a highlight reel designed to evoke envy and admiration. I always felt profoundly out of place among them, like an anthropologist observing a foreign tribe with bizarre customs. My preference for jeans, t-shirts, and a quiet evening with a good book seemed to mark me as an alien in their world of stilettos, champagne, and carefully staged selfies. They'd spend an eternity posing for photos, taking countless shots from every conceivable angle, before meticulously filtering and editing them until the final product barely resembled reality. Underneath their bubbly, seemingly carefree exteriors, I sensed a current of viciousness, a constant hum of gossip and judgment. They always made me feel subtly inadequate, like I wasn't good enough for Sarah, that I didn't belong in their privileged, materialistic bubble. Their comments, often veiled as compliments or jokes, were laced with a subtle condescension. I remember Emily, Sarah's supposed best friend, once seeing a picture of me in a comfortable, slightly worn shirt and remarking, "Oh, Jake, that's a unique choice," emphasizing the word unique, with a delicate sneer, as if my lack of designer branding was a personal affront. These seemingly small digs, repeated over time, chipped away at my confidence. I tolerated them, enduring their veiled criticisms and their shallow conversations because they were important to Sarah. But now, looking back, I realized they were likely a toxic influence, fueling her insecurities and encouraging her fantasies, thriving on the drama of what-ifs and potential romantic escapades, instead of celebrating the stable, loving relationship Sarah and I had painstakingly built. They probably reveled in the chaos she created, and I can almost picture them now, sipping expensive cocktails, patting Sarah on the back and assuring her she's better off, that she deserves someone better, someone who fits more neatly into their shallow, materialistic worldview, a world I never wanted any part of. The wedding details were extravagant, a reflection of Sarah's parents' desire to impress their social circle. We were supposed to have this huge, lavish wedding, a grand affair that had been meticulously planned for over a year. Sarah's parents, Richard and Marjorie, insisted on inviting everyone they'd ever met, every distant relative, every business associate, every acquaintance, regardless of whether we actually had a relationship with them. They were those types of people who cared more about appearances than actual relationships, more concerned with putting on a show than celebrating our love. Sarah's mom, Marjorie, kept saying things like, "Oh, we need to invite the Bradshaws, they're very influential," or "Don't forget about Aunt Mildred, she'll be so offended if she's not invited," as if the wedding was a networking event rather than a celebration of our commitment. The guest list ballooned to over 300 people, a massive gathering that felt overwhelming and impersonal. I tried to talk Sarah into something smaller, more intimate, a gathering of our closest friends and family, but she always gave in to her parents, easily swayed by their pressure and their desire for a lavish spectacle. She'd bat her eyes at me and say, "Oh, come on, Jake, it's just one day. It'll make them so happy," as if their happiness was more important than our own. The venue alone cost a fortune, a significant chunk of our savings. It was this fancy estate with a sprawling lawn, a picturesque lake, and a romantic gazebo, the perfect backdrop for a fairy tale wedding. We had a string quartet booked for the ceremony, a live band for the reception, a 5-course meal catered by a renowned chef, the whole 9 yards. Sarah's dad, Richard, kept joking, "Well, son, you're marrying into the Chambers family. You have to do it right," as if our wedding was a business transaction, a merger of two families, rather than a celebration of love. My parents, who are of modest means, were understandably stressed about the cost, but they were determined to contribute, to help us achieve our dream wedding. My mom, bless her heart, had been working extra shifts at the hospital, taking on additional responsibilities to help cover the costs of the wedding. I remember her telling me, "It's okay, honey. It's for your happiness." Her voice filled with love and sacrifice. And now it's all for nothing. All that planning, all that expense, all that emotional investment, it's all been wasted. Update 2, things have gotten even messier, more complicated, and more emotionally draining. It's like the universe is piling on, testing my limits. So, after Sarah left, after I kicked her out and changed the locks, I thought that was it. End of story. Chapter closed. But no, it's like a soap opera, a never-ending drama with twists and turns I never saw coming. A few days after I kicked her out, after the initial shock and numbness had started to wear off, Sarah showed up at my door, unannounced, unexpected. She was a mess, a complete and utter wreck. She was wearing the same red dress she'd worn to see Jake, the dress that now symbolized her betrayal, but it was wrinkled and stained like she'd slept in it. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup was smeared, and her eyes were red and puffy from crying. She looked like a ghost of her former self, the vibrant, confident woman I loved, replaced by a broken, desperate figure. She stood there on my doorstep, trembling, her hands clutching a crumpled tissue, and launched into a tearful apology, a desperate plea for forgiveness. She said she made a mistake, a huge, colossal mistake, that Jake wasn't who she thought he was, that the fantasy she'd built up in her mind didn't match the reality. She said it was just a rebound, a moment of weakness, a desperate attempt to recapture something she'd lost, and that she realized almost immediately that she wanted me, not him. That I was her home, her safe harbor, her true love. I just stood there listening to her words, feeling a strange mix of anger, sadness, and pity. I told her it was too late, that the damage was done, that the trust was irrevocably broken. Then the calls started. Her friends, those perfectly coiffed, designer-clad harpies, started calling me one by one, saying I was overreacting, that I was being unfair to Sarah, that I should give her another chance. Emily, the one whose messages I had seen, the one who had encouraged Sarah's betrayal, even had the nerve to call me, her voice dripping with condescension. She said I was being unreasonable, that I should hear Sarah's side of the story, that I was acting like a child. I told her I did hear her side, loud and clear, that in her own words, in the messages she'd sent to Sarah, encouraging her to pursue Jake. I told her she was a terrible friend, a toxic influence, and hung up on her. Then, Sarah's mom, Marjorie, called, her voice a mix of pleading and accusation. She tried to guilt me, saying I was breaking her daughter's heart, that Sarah was devastated, that I was being cruel and unforgiving. She said Sarah was just confused, that she'd been under a lot of stress with the wedding planning, that she didn't really mean to hurt me. Apparently, Sarah's been telling everyone a completely different version of events, painting me as the villain, the controlling, jealous boyfriend who couldn't handle her having male friends. She's been spreading lies, twisting the truth to make herself look like the victim. Some people have taken her side, believing her fabricated story, while others, thankfully, are starting to see the truth, recognizing her manipulative behavior. I received a message completely out of the blue. It was from a friend of mine. He filled me in on what really happened between Sarah and Jake. Apparently, Sarah had been pursuing Jake relentlessly, sending him messages, calling him, and basically throwing herself at him. Jake, however, wasn't interested. He was polite but firm, telling her he was happy for her and that he had moved on. He had no intention of rekindling their high school romance. Sarah's grand plan, her desperate attempt to recapture her youth, to relive her glory days, had completely backfired. She'd blown up our relationship, destroyed our future, for a fantasy that was never going to materialize. Last night, fueled by desperation and probably a few too many drinks, Sarah showed up at my apartment, banging on the door, shouting my name, creating a scene. She was crying hysterically, begging me to let her in, to talk to her, to give her another chance. She was saying she made a mistake, a terrible mistake, and that I'm the only one she wants, the only one she's ever truly loved. It was pathetic and embarrassing, and I felt a surge of anger mixed with pity. I told her through the closed door that it's over, that she needed to leave, that she'd flushed 7 years of love and commitment down the toilet for a fleeting, misguided test drive with her ex. I also told her I know the truth, that I know Jake wasn't even interested in her, that her whole plan had been a pathetic failure. She didn't deny it. She just stood there, sobbing, defeated. Eventually, she left, slinking away into the night. I haven't heard from her since. I'm getting a lot of mixed messages from people, a cacophony of opinions and advice. Some say I should forgive her, that everyone makes mistakes, that love conquers all. Others say I'm right to end it, that her betrayal was unforgivable, that I deserve better. I'm torn, confused, and emotionally exhausted. I don't know what to do, what to believe, or who to trust. Update 3. Well, it's been a few days since Sarah's dramatic appearance at my apartment, and things have only gotten weirder, more convoluted, and more emotionally taxing. It feels like I'm trapped in a bad soap opera, with new characters and plot twists emerging every day. The fallout from Sarah's actions is spreading like a ripple effect, impacting everyone around us, creating divisions and allegiances. I got a call, completely unexpected, from Sarah's dad, Richard. He's usually a rather aloof and imposing figure, more concerned with business deals than personal relationships. He asked me to come over for dinner, a seemingly innocent request, but something in his voice made me uneasy. He specifically said Sarah wouldn't be there, that it was just a chance for us to talk things over, man to man. I reluctantly agreed, feeling a sense of obligation despite my better judgment. I went, and it was a trap, a carefully orchestrated ambush. Her mom, Marjorie, her dad, Richard, and her younger sister, Bethany, were all there, sitting around the dining room table, a united front against me. It felt like an intervention, a family court convened to judge my actions. They tried to convince me I was overreacting, that I was being too harsh, that Sarah was deeply remorseful and deserved another chance. They kept saying Sarah was confused, that she'd been under a lot of pressure, that she didn't really mean to hurt me. Richard, usually so stoic and unemotional, started with the usual, "Son, you're making a big mistake. Sarah loves you. She just got caught up in the moment. A youthful indiscretion. We all make mistakes." Marjorie, ever the dramatic one, chimed in, her voice dripping with melodrama. "She didn't do anything wrong. She just went out with her friends. You're being so unreasonable, so unforgiving." Bethany, who's always been Sarah's biggest defender, her ride or die, just glared at me, her arms crossed, her expression a mixture of anger and defiance. "You're being ridiculous. You're going to throw away 7 years, a whole future, because of one night? Because of a few stupid text messages?" It was infuriating. Their complete denial of Sarah's deliberate actions, their attempt to minimize her betrayal. Then I dropped the bomb, the truth bomb I'd been holding back. I told them I knew the truth, that I knew about Sarah's relentless pursuit of Jake, about his lack of interest, about her failed attempt to rekindle their high school romance. I told them I knew she had been lying to everyone, manipulating the situation to make herself look like the victim. Richard was shocked. his face paling, his usual composure crumbling. Marjorie gasped, her hand flying to her mouth in a theatrical gesture of disbelief. Bethany just stared at me, her eyes narrowed, her jaw clenched. Sarah, who had apparently been hiding upstairs listening to the whole conversation, started crying, loud, wailing sobs that echoed through the house. I didn't stay to witness the aftermath. I simply stood up, walked out of the house, and drove away, feeling a strange mix of relief and exhaustion. The next day, the drama continued. Sarah's mom, Marjorie, in a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, called my mom, Carol, trying to enlist her help in convincing me to take Sarah back. Marjorie tried to manipulate Carol, playing the sympathy card saying I was being unreasonable, that Sarah was just a young woman exploring her options, that I was overreacting to a harmless flirtation. Thankfully, my mom, who has always been my rock, my voice of reason, saw right through Marjorie's manipulative tactics. She told her, firmly but politely, that she supported my decision, that she trusted my judgment, and that she wasn't going to interfere in my personal life. She told Marjorie that Sarah had made her choices, and she had to live with the consequences. It felt like a small victory, a moment of clarity in the midst of all the chaos. I'm getting mixed messages. The fallout from this whole situation has been widespread and unpredictable. Some friends are supportive, offering unwavering loyalty and understanding. They've been checking in on me, offering a listening ear, a shoulder to cry on, a much-needed distraction. Others, however, are distant, awkward, unsure how to react. They're probably uncomfortable with the drama, unsure whose side to take, or perhaps they're secretly judging me, believing Sarah's fabricated version of events. Even some of my family members are giving me weird looks, questioning glances, like I'm the one who messed up, like I'm the villain in this story. I don't know who to trust anymore, who to confide in. I'm starting to feel like I'm in the middle of a war zone, caught in the crossfire of conflicting loyalties and accusations. It's isolating and exhausting. Final update? Well, it's over for real this time. The final chapter of this ridiculous, heartbreaking, life-altering saga has finally been written. The dust is settling, the emotional storm is subsiding, and I'm starting to see a glimmer of light at the end of this very dark tunnel. I received a letter from Sarah, a literal handwritten letter, delivered by mail, like something out of a Victorian novel. It was a long, rambling, emotionally charged missive, filled with apologies, regrets, and pleas for reconciliation. She poured her heart out on paper, expressing her remorse, her shame, her undying love for me. She acknowledged her mistakes, her betrayal, her lies. She said she wanted to meet to talk in person, to explain herself, to beg for my forgiveness. And then she dropped a bombshell. She mentioned, almost casually, that she still had the key to my apartment, a detail that sent a chill down my spine. I know I messed up, my love, she wrote, her handwriting shaky and uneven, but I can't bear the thought of losing you forever. You're my soulmate, my everything. Please, Jake, just one more chance to talk, to explain, to show you how much I love you. I still have the key to our apartment, and I'll be there waiting for you whenever you're ready, whenever you decide to come home. I was officially freaked out, completely unnerved. The fact that she still had the key after everything that had happened, the way she was trying to manipulate me with this dramatic, emotionally charged letter, it was too much. It felt like a violation, a threat, a sign that she was still clinging to the past, unwilling to accept that it was over. I responded, but not in the way she expected. I didn't engage with her emotional pleas, her promises of change, her declarations of love. I wrote her back, a short, firm, concise message, leaving no room for misinterpretation. Sarah, it's over. There will be no meeting. There will be no further communication. I want the key returned immediately. Do not contact me again. This is not a request, it's a demand. That's all I said. No emotion, no anger, no sadness, just a clear frustration. If you thought that was crazy, hit that like button and subscribe for more wild stories. And if you didn't quite enjoy it, feel free to hit the dislike. Your feedback means a lot. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think, or share your own experiences. And don't forget to check out my other videos for more insane tales. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.